adjustment meeting will please come to order. Adequate notice of this meeting was provided in the following ways. Notice published in the Courier News, notice posted in the bulletin board of the municipal building, notice made available to the township clerk, notice sent to the Courier News and Star Ledger. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Tillery?
Here.
Mr. Patel?
Here.
Mr. Reggio? Mr. Blount? Mr. Hidaka?
Here.
Mr. Mitterondo?
Here.
Mr. Ali? And Vice Chairman Weissman.
Here. Did I just hear Mr. Ali?
No.
Okay. Will everyone please stand for the salute to the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
justice for all.
Mr. Keneally, are there any changes to tonight's agenda?
Yes, there are two changes to tonight's agenda. 100 Lakeview is adjourned until March 9th, 2023 with no further notice. And St. Moses Church is also adjourned. That is adjourned until March 23rd, 2023 with no further notice. Those are all the changes I have.
Thank you, Mr. Keneally. Moving on to our next item on the agenda. It's item number 5, 23-ZB-10B, Louis Fortunato.
Is Mr. Fortunato present?
No.
Yes.
Mr. Fortunato, I need to swear you in. Could you raise your right hand? Do you swear the testimony you're about to give should be the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. Could I have your name and address, please?
Louis Fortunato, 9 Henry Place, Piscataway, New Jersey.
Thank you. Could you explain to the board why you're here?
We're requesting relief for a setback discrepancy on the front of the house and also for coverage.
Mr. Chairman, you may want to talk to Mr. Henderson.
Yes.
What he has to say.
Mr. Hinterstein, what is your take on this request, please?
Yeah, there's really no issues with this application. I just wanted to understand why the house, do you have any idea why this is larger than what was previously approved?
Believe it or not, the addition is exact to, the whole house is exactly to its plans. I mean, it could be measured, by the foot, and you'd see it's exactly the way it reads on the plans. There's no additional size or length or width or anything.
So it's just a mathematical error the last time around?
I think so, yeah. Yeah, I believe so.
Okay. Yeah, I really don't see any issues with this application, Mr. Chairman. Again, all the deviations are de minimis at best from what was previously approved, whether it was mathematical error or construction error. I don't think anything was done here maliciously or with intent. So I don't see any issues with the variances being requested.
Thank you, Henry. Anyone on the board have any questions at this point?
One quick question.
Yes.
What year, do we know what year the house was constructed?
The original house or the addition?
Both.
House was built in 1961, we think, and the addition was 1995.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Bill.
No, I'm wrong, 1996. It was 1996.
Any other questions from the board? Hearing none, I'll open up to the public. Anyone from the public have any questions?
Or comments?
Or comments? Thank you. Ms. Buckley, do you see any hands raised?
No one, Chairman.
Thank you. I'm closing the public section of this discussion. Opening up one more time. Anyone on the board have anything at this point? Hearing none, I will make a motion that we accept this resolution, this request.
I'll second.
I'll second it.
Can we have a roll, please?
Mr. Tillery,
Yes.
Mr. Patel,
Yes.
Mr. Hidaka,
Yes.
Mr. Mitterondo,
Yes.
and Vice Chairman Weissman.
Yes.
Your application has been approved. We'll memorialize this in a written document at our next meeting and send that document to you. Good luck.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Next item, 6, 23-ZB-09V, Santos Lopez.
Is Santos Lopez present?
Yes, sorry. Yeah, I am here.
Okay, I need to swear you in. Could you raise your right hand? Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give should be the truth?
Yes.
Your name and address, please.
46 Marcel Lane.
And you are Santos Lopez?
That is right.
Okay, could you explain to the board what you'd like to do here?
We would like to build a gazebo or pavilion in the backyard of our property for kind of like, enjoyment, especially in the summer times where it gets really hot and, we need like some cover area. We would like to, for enjoyment of our backyard and, for the kids and all to enjoy. So that's really the main reason.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Hinterstein has a couple of comments he may want to address.
Yes, please. Go ahead, Mr. Hinterstein.
Yeah, Mr. Lopez, it appears, again, that your application called out the 12 by 12 gazebo or pavilion, and that is the common size, I think, for that style pavilion, but the architectural plans actually show it a little bit larger, and as a result, I think it's more of a technicality, but the coverage variance is increased by 0.2%. And I also believe that you're going to need a rear setback variance of 1 foot to encroach into the rear setback slightly. So, Mr. Keneally, I think maybe the note that the coverage variance for this application should be increased that 0.2%. I guess it will make it 22% building coverage versus 21.8.
Yes.
And I think there's going to be a new rear yard setback variance required of 1 foot to 24 foot instead of 25.
I've got that.
And then, Mr. Santos, Mr. Lopez, have you seen the comment regarding keeping the pavilion open? You're not to enclose it?
Yeah, it definitely will stay open. There's not going to be any walls on it. It's just going to be just the roof, and that's about it. We'll never enclose the area.
Okay. I don't have any other issues.
Very good.
He doesn't.
Excuse me? Anyone on the board have any questions? Hearing none, I'd like to open this up to the public. Anyone from the public have any concerns, comments, questions?
No one, Chairman.
Thank you. Close the public part of the meeting on this. I would like to make a motion that we accept this request as outlined by Henry, the slight addition to the coverage. Henry, are they going to have to put in for a second variance for the setback, or is that we're covering it right now?
Yeah, we're covering that right now.
Thank you. Okay, and the inclusion of the additional variance for the setback. Can I get a second?
I'll second it.
Did you get that, Laura?
I got it.
Okay.
Mr. Tillery,
Yes.
Mr. Patel,
Yes.
Mr. Hidaka,
Yes.
Mr. Mitterondo,
Yes.
and Chairman Weissman.
Yes.
Mr. Lopez, your application's been approved. We will memorialize it in a written document at our next meeting and send that document to you. Good luck.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Moving on, item number 8, 23-ZB-11V, Michael Troganowski.
Is Mr. Troganowski present?
Yes, I'm here, sir.
I need to swear you in. Could you raise your right hand? You swear the testimony you're about to give should be the truth?
Yes, sir.
Your name and address, please.
Michael Trojanowski, 30 Brandywine Circle, Piscataway.
Thank you. Could you explain to the board what you'd like to do here?
I have a garage at my residence. I would like to close off the garage and make it living space.
And Mr. Hinterstein has a few comments in his report. Perhaps he could address those.
Mr.
Yeah,
Hinterstein?
Mr. Chairman, again, this application, I have too many concerns with it. The concerns I did have been somewhat, those questions that I had have been answered since the time the report's been written. The applicant has provided some copies of some permitting for some of the additional elements that are on the property, as well as submitted for a zoning permit for a shed that wasn't previously shown on the survey. So I think all the extra items have been resolved as far as permitting. The only really issue is the garage. The driveway is large enough to accommodate, I think at a minimum 3 vehicles, which would meet the RSIS standards for off-street parking. With that being said, I really don't see a big issue. Most of the homes in this area are modest ranches. The garages are relatively small. I think Mr. Trojanowski could probably attest to the fact that he's probably never put a vehicle in that garage because I don't know if it's large enough to handle a car. So again, I don't see any issue with the garage being converted due to the fact that the off-street parking is sufficient.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the board? Hearing none, I would like to open this up to the public. Anyone in the public have any questions or concerns or comments they'd like to make at this time?
No one, Chairman.
Thank you, Ms. Buckley. I'd like to close the public portion, and I'd like to make a motion that we accept this request. Can I get a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Please take a roll call.
Mr. Tillery,
Yes.
Mr. Patel,
Yes.
Mr. Hidaka,
Yes.
Mr. Mitterondo,
Yes.
and Mr. Weissman.
Yes.
Your application has been approved. We will memorialize it in a written document at our next meeting and send that document to you. Good luck.
Thank you, sir.
Moving forward, item number 9, 23-ZB-08V. That's Banner Assets LLC.
Mr. Arch, are you present?
I am. Good evening, members of the board professionals. My name is Tim Arch. I'm an attorney licensed in the state of New Jersey. I'm here representing Banner Assets. This is a very similar actually to the first application that you just heard tonight in terms of what we're asking for. This is a property where it was granted approval in 2011 for a single family home on an undersized lot. The prior owner began construction. The property was foreclosed on. The current owner is seeking to continue that construction and to build that approved house. And when they put in an as-built survey of the foundation, it was discovered that the foundation was slightly off from what the approval had stated. And when I say slightly off, it is, let me just make sure my numbers are correct here. I believe it is 5 inches off on the one side and 2 inches off on the front. And so because of that, the current owner is not able to get their permits to do any of the additional construction and to finish out the house. And so we're here tonight asking for an amended approval in order to account for that 2 inches on the front, which does put us into the 35-foot front yard setback by 2 inches, and that additional 5 inches on the side. We did receive a report from Mr. Hinterstein on February 22nd. We are in agreement with all the comments and will comply with all the comments of the report. I do have Mr. Michael Burns here, who is a representative of Banner Assets, if the board has any questions for him. Although, quite frankly, I don't know if any additional testimony is needed. As Mr. Hinterstein said on the first application, I think this is the definition of de minimis changes to the previous application, even more so than that prior application. So with that, I will turn it over to you. Again, if you have any direct questions for Mr. Burns, he is here. If you have any additional questions for me, but that is the relief that we're seeking tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Arch. Mr. Hinterstein, you in agreement?
Yeah, I think Mr. Arch summed it up pretty well. I mean, all of the variants being requested are de minimis in nature. and they've agreed to all the conditions that are sort of outstanding on the property currently. So with that being said, I won't belabor this point. I think that the application could be looked on favorably as long as they're in agreement with the items in the staff report.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? Hearing none, I would like to open up to the public. Any questions, concerns, or comments from the public?
No one, Chairman.
Thank you, Laura. Closing the public section, I'd like to make a motion that we accept these changes and vote in
I'll
favor.
second.
Thank you, Kalpesh. Please take the
I'll
roll.
second it.
Mr. Tillery,
Yes.
Mr. Patel,
Yes.
Mr. Hidaka,
Yes.
Mr. Mitterondo,
Yes.
and Chairman Weissman.
Yes.
We'll memorialize this at our next meeting, Mr. Arch.
Thank you.
This is Michael Burns on behalf of Banner. I just want to thank the town, the board for their time and consideration on this file, and we look forward to finishing this project and improving the property for the township and for ourselves and everybody around.
Thank you, Mr. Burns.
Thank you.
Moving forward, item number 10, 23-ZB-06V, U Dream LLC.
Good evening again, members of the board and board professionals. I'm Tim Arch. I'm still a licensed attorney in the state of New Jersey, and I am here representing U Dream LLC, which is the owner of a property at it is 397 Park Avenue. You might know it as a property that contains I believe it's a barber shop and a convenience or deli on the bottom. And there are 2 residential units that are on the top. Now, this is also an application that in 2011 was in front of the board for a pre-existing non-conforming use for the bottom commercial uses. And at that time, this board was kind enough to grant that pre-existing use on the commercial uses underneath. But what never went addressed was the residential units or the 2 apartments that were on top. So we did present a packet to the board of all the evidence that we were able to find. And quite frankly, it's interesting because some of the evidence that was from the 2011 pre-existing can really just apply to this one as well. I would like to share my screen just briefly, just to go over 3 pieces of those evidence, just to highlight there. One second. Can everybody see my screen? Mm-hmm. Okay. Yes. So the first thing that I'm showing, this is an affidavit that was submitted in the 2011 application for pre-existing non-conforming. There were several affidavits. This is just one of them. They all are substantially similar, and all of them indicate that the individuals have been living in the town since prior to the adoption of the zoning ordinances, and all of them indicate that the building has always been operated as 2 commercial store businesses operated on the first floor of 397 Park Avenue. And the reason I highlight that is obviously if there wasn't a non-commercial use on the second floor, it would be odd to specify or call out that there are commercial uses on the first floor. So I just wanted to bring that to everybody's attention, that those affidavits are specific as to talking about the first floor, which you would only do if there was also a second floor that had a non-commercial use. That's just by implication. I also want to go to 2 different articles that we were able to find. One is from June 10th of 1975. Now, the prior owner, who was a man named Mr. Shrum, he was the one that got the pre-existing non-conforming use in 2011. You can ignore all the conflict charges and stuff and all the salacious things in it, because that really has nothing to do with that. But the one thing I did want to highlight here is it talks about Mr. Shrum's properties, and it actually indicates that because Mr. Shrum is a housing inspector, and it indicated that his properties, most of which were residential units. So again, some indication that it wouldn't be out of character that the 2 residences above this building have been used as residences and have been there as long as the building has been there. And then the final piece of evidence that I think is worth noting is an article from March 26, 1967, and this is a birth announcement which are quite common pieces of evidence. And this one is for Jackson, son to Ronald and Claudette, and they list their home address as 397 Park Avenue in Piscataway. It's possible, I assume, that they were living in the barber shop or the deli, but I assume that it probably makes more sense that they were living in one of the residences above those two. So those are the pieces of evidence that I wanted to highlight. There were some additional things as well. We also provided photographs of the existing residential units to show that they are well suited to be residences. There's separate utilities. They're upkept as residences, and the new owners now wish to get permits to upgrade them and to bring in residents, and that's why we're here in order to address those two residential units, which we believe have always been up there. There's no indication from looking at the building. It's a masonry building. There's no indication from looking at it that there's anything different from the second floor to the first floor, that there were any additions. I will also note that we did get a memo or a staff report from Mr. Hinterstein that indicated a couple different comments. We are happy to comply with all the comments on Mr. Hinterstein's report. Of note, we are going to delineate 4 spaces for the residential units within that parking lot so that they have their own spaces, and we are going to provide a handicap space that's going to be striped, as well as do some maintenance work and on the apron, as Mr. Hinterstein pointed out, and also clean up the one side of the building or the areas of the building that Mr. Hinterstein indicated. So with that said, as I said, I do have Miss Rima Patel, who is here. She is a representative of UDream. If the board feels that there's any direct questions that need to be raised to her, she can certainly testify. But as I said, this is for all the reasons that the pre-existing non-conforming were granted back in 2011. I think those also essentially apply to the application here. And I think that it was, quite frankly, just an oversight that it wasn't addressed at that time for the 2 upper units, and it was only the first floor that was addressed. So I'll hand it over to the board if they have any other questions, or if they have any questions of Ms. Patel.
Mr. Arch, those delineated parking spaces will be assigned 2 to each apartment?
In Mr. Hinter's, yeah, it says 4 parking spaces, so there's 2 apartments. So I assume it would be 1 for one apartment, or 2 for one apartment, 2 for the other. I don't know if Mr. Hinterstein wanted us to just label them as residential parking, and then between the residents they can figure that out. But if you want it to be delineated between each unit, we could do that as well.
Mr. Hinterstein, do you have an opinion on that?
Well, the requirement is 2 spaces for each unit, so you maybe make sense to delineate it for each unit. And obviously, if there's one unit that doesn't need it, and perhaps the other unit that does, they can work that out amongst themselves. But again, the requirement is 2 parking spaces per apartment. So I think it'd probably be beneficial to label it that way so that there's no confusion.
We can certainly do that.
And Mr. Weissman, I've reviewed the board's resolution from back in 2011. It certainly seems that this building pre-existed the adoption of the zoning ordinances in Piscataway, and nothing appears to have changed in the building since 2011. So in addition to the evidence submitted by the applicant, I believe the board's resolution in 2011 also supports the contention that this is a pre-existing non-conforming use.
Thank you. Any questions from anyone on the board?
Mr. Chairman, I just have one question.
Yes, Mr. Hinterstein.
Mr. Arch, there's a site plan or a floor plan that's been submitted. It appears that that's just one of the apartments. Can I assume that the other apartment is a mirror image of the floor plan that was provided? Because I didn't see a floor plan for each, but I could have missed it. So
I do not know the answer to that question off the top of my head. I will ask Ms. Patel if she knows the answer. Are the 2 units just mirrored?
Ms. Patel, I need to swear you in. Could you raise your right hand? Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give should be the truth?
Yes, sir.
Your name and address, please.
Rima Patel, 607 Park Avenue, Piscataway.
Thank you.
Yes, they are mirror images, same 2-bedroom, bathroom, kitchen outline in terms of the site plan for the first one.
I had no other further questions, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Henry. Are there any questions or concerns from anyone on any member of the board? Hearing none, I'd like to open up to the public. Are there any questions, concerns, or comments from the public on this request?
No one, Chairman.
Thank you, Ms. Buckley. Closing the public portion, I'd like to make a recommendation to move forward. A proposal to.
I'll second.
Thank you. Ms. Buckley, can we take a roll?
I'm
Mr.
sorry,
Tiller?
who's second?
Kalpesh
Patel.
Patel.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Tillery,
Yes.
Mr. Patel,
Yes.
Mr. Hidaka,
Yes.
Mr. Mitterondo,
Yes.
and Chairman Weissman.
Yes.
We will memorialize this at our next meeting, Mr. Arch.
Thank you so much. Everybody have a wonderful early evening, it looks like.
Yep.
Thank
so
you.
much, the board. Thank you.
Moving forward, the next item, adoption of resolution from the regular meeting on February 9th, 2023.
First resolution is Patricia Malcolm. This was an application that you approved. Mr. Tillery,
Yes.
Mr. Patel,
Yes.
Mr. Heyduka,
Yes.
Mr. Mitterondo,
Yes.
Chairman Weissman.
Yes.
Next is Patricia and David Cape, which was a vote to approve. Mr. Tillery,
Yes. Yes.
Mr. Patel,
Yes.
Mr. Heyduka,
Yes.
Mr. Mitterondo,
Yes.
Mr. Weissman.
Yes.
Next is Harvey Quinones. This was an application that you approved. Tillery, Mr. Tillery,
Yes.
Mr.
Yes.
Patel,
Yes.
Mr. Heyduka,
Yes.
Mr. Mitterondo,
Yes.
Chairman Weissman.
Yes.
Final resolution, Latasha Jones, which you voted to approve. Mr. Tillery,
Yes.
Mr. Patel,
Yes.
Mr. Heyduka,
Yes.
Mr. Mitterondo,
Yes.
Chairman Weissman.
Yes.
Those are all the resolutions I have this evening.
Thank you. Moving on, adoption of the minutes from the regular meeting on February 9th, 2023. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes. Thank you. I make a motion for adjournment. Do I get a second? Thank
Second.
you. Everyone have a good night.
You too.
Have a good night, everyone.
Take care. Good job, Steve.
Thank you.